Ratway. I work for the American Institutes for Research. I'm housed in Wisconsin, and I'm a principal technical assistance consultant at the American Institutes for Research. Today, I will be presenting, and let me put this in slideshow version and move you all over here. Okay. I'm going to be presenting about the social studies curriculum review landscape. I'll give you some background. It's a report that we will share with you, and I can put that in the chat if you'd like. Maybe. I'll put it in the chat at the end so you can see it though. Okay. So what I'd like to share with you, this is it is newly released, and it's a report on something that we worked with EdReports on. So I will go through, tell you a little bit about AIR, and then really focus on the presentation and the report. American Institutes for Research is committed to the increasing the effectiveness of education at all levels. And essentially, we have many different arms at the American Institutes for Research. I'm housed in the technical assistance space. A majority of my work under AIR and my team's work is to support states across the United States in the revision of their social studies and civic standards, as well as supporting implementation of those standards. So today, just in my session, I'm going to quickly, in 6 minutes, go through a background and overview of the research that I want to share with you, which is the social studies curriculum landscape, sharing the key learnings that we take away that I can share with you. I will share the report and then talk about why it's so important for the civics work moving forward, particularly in the current landscape. So just starting with when I say HQIM, or high quality instruction materials, they are materials and resources for educators to support the learning needs of all students in the classroom. So it's what teachers are using, full curriculum and supports and strategies and resources, whether they be OER resources or full textbook, or all of those components fall under HQIM. What are the materials teachers are using in the classroom to support civic learning? Oh, so why do they matter? So for students, high quality instructional materials are increasingly important. The research talks about it allows them to develop critical thinking skills, it improves student achievement, and it promotes equity by engaging all students. That's what we're looking for when we're really thinking about what's inside these curriculum materials that are being used in the civics classrooms. Why does it matter for educators? Well, right now, educators are cobbling together all different things to really kind of get their students engaged in the civic learning and the civic standards across the states. And having high quality instructional materials leads to coherence. It really helps teachers focus on working with students rather than trying to find all the different resources from many different areas to help students learn. So the report, a little background about the report that I'll be sharing with you, the research that we did. We partnered with EdReports, and EdReports is known particularly in the literacy and mathematics field, where they do national reviews of curriculum materials. They didn't and don't have the social studies background or civics background. So they hired us and worked with us to begin work in Louisiana. Louisiana had a new set of social studies standards as of 2022, and they have a very robust system statewide to identify what materials are high quality. So they needed support in developing a social studies rubric and professional development to help bring together educators to evaluate using this rubric. So that's where this work started. And in order to do this work, we needed to get a lay of the land. So EdReports asked us at AIR to do some research around what was happening in the area of curriculum materials around social studies. What is the good, the bad, and the ugly that is all over the United States in terms of what people are using, how they're promoting materials, what materials are they promoting, what kinds are they? Are they textbooks? Are they OER, open education resources? So what we did is we scanned all 50 state websites. We had interviews with social studies specialists at the state level and the district level. We talked to different content organizations, and we put together the report that we'll be sharing with you that really outlines what's happening at this point in time around curriculum materials in social studies. The report itself is divided into 5 different components. One, there's a background, right? So it just really talks about the importance and gives a comprehensive picture, particularly now around the state and national legislative efforts to expand or limit social studies curriculum, what's happening out there as best we can, again, in this point in time. It also explains and explores what's happening in the field, what kind of frameworks are out there, who's using what, and what are the parameters and what you can use in a classroom, particularly in civics and social studies. The second part talks about curriculum products. It gives samples from what we learned in the field about what folks are using, what types of products people are using in the classrooms with students. It looks by grade coverage, types of resources, core versus supplementary, which is a really big thing in social studies, right? Like, do you have a core set of textbooks, and are you supplementing it with all different types of resources? So that is an analysis in that section. The third section is the market landscape, which is really relevant today in terms of what are the political and social factors and legislation that is impacting the curriculum market. Publishers are really feeling some pressure state by state, depending on the legislation and policies that are coming about on a daily basis. Then the curriculum review landscape, it provides an overview and comparison of existing curriculum. What are states using? Not all states give a suggested list, but what are they using? What are teachers using? And looks at a report that was done by the American Historical Association, Anne Rand, to look at what individual teachers say they are using, what types of resources. And then the conditions talks about state by state. It has different analyses of different states and an appendix that talks about what's happening in each of those states. What are the influences? What are the accountability systems? How do they correlate it to assessments? But really, how are they making decisions about what's being used in the classroom? So that's the report as a whole. And it is in those 5 different components. And why are we focusing on this report? And it's not, it's a set of research where we did the scan, but it's not like something you can put on your shelf and print out and it's going to stay the same. It's going to change tomorrow. So we're using it as a tool to start conversations, to ground everybody in one space to really better understand what does curriculum mean, how does it impact students, why is it important in civics, and then using that as our common knowledge base to have continued discussions about the strengths and gaps and how do we collaboratively work together to fill those gaps to best meet the needs of students in the classroom and to support teachers in teaching the civic indicators and the civic standards that are expected of them in every state. What did we learn? So these are the 7 different points that we learned that came out of our analysis. Do this, okay. That there needs to be a definition of HQIM. High quality instructional materials in social studies needs to be defined. So we've taken steps to do that and have developed a rubric that we can share and follow up as well. And that we're working with states to use and districts to use to have some common language about what is high quality and what are high quality instructional materials in social studies. There are commonalities across state standards. Everybody always says, you know, in social studies, there isn't a common set of standards. There are opportunities and we're doing an analysis and there are some common elements, particularly in the civic space, about what the expectations are for students. And that's helpful when you're really talking about collaboratively approaching the development of HQIM in social studies and civics. And there's data out there in terms of other subject areas, as well as social studies, is the effect of incorporating HQIM. If you have high quality instruction materials that are well done, coherent, it really impacts the classroom and learning. When they're being used, how they're being used, it became fairly prevalent and apparent of the marginalization of social studies, which just means particularly in elementary, we're losing time. Civics and social studies is not being taught all the time because of the emphasis and the legislation in other areas. So essentially, most times, students don't get access to civics and social studies until middle school, and then they're already behind in terms of the content and the skills that we want to develop by grade 12. More and more, obviously, student or teachers are using OER, open education resources, to supplement because there isn't a lot of really high quality instructional materials that they can use just by itself. So they are supplementing their work with open education resources, and there are a ton of really good sources out there for that. But it is, again, taking educators are taking the time to put those together, which takes away from time that they could spend really focusing on deepening their students' learning. And the publishers are prioritizing content. We've been working with publishers on these HQIM indicators that we've developed based off of this report. And they're really trying to figure out where their strengths and gaps are and how could they even work together to build more cohesive, comprehensive civics curriculum that teachers can use. And so the importance for future civics work, why? Why is HQIM important to the field? Well, to start with, this map, and we have a map on our website that you can look at different content areas and see what's expected. Every state has a civic strand that is required as part of their social studies standards. Right? It looks a little different in every state, but every state has, under their social studies requirement, has a civics strand. So that's important. So it gives us some commonality to think about HQIM in the field. They're crucial in civic education because they ensure students receive accurate, comprehensive information, preparing them to be informed, engaged citizens. If we can build together and have some really high quality instructional materials in civics for educators to use in the classroom, it's really going to impact how we get students to be informed and engaged citizens, and that they can contribute to their democracy based off of these really rich resources. And gives the educators more time then to create meaningful, deep, action-based learning experiences based off of if you have really good content-rich, coherent curriculum. Recommendations, particularly in this space, is collaboratively, no matter who you are, engaged in this in the civics work, advocate for high quality civic materials and resources. How can we work together to support that? Communicate the importance and impact. What I just talked about, I can share some of the research about the impact of having high quality instruction materials. We need to communicate that to everyone so everybody understands the value add of coming together to build high quality instructional materials in civics. Support local efforts. Most often, social studies and civics efforts are local, not necessarily always at the state level. How do we help districts think about these things, really understand what high quality means? And then professional development. How can we help teachers understand what high quality means? How can we help them build their repertoire of materials and really have some questions to ask when they're talking to folks, whether it be libraries or if they're going on field trips or materials, that they're always asking the same questions. Is this high quality? Is it going to help me reach those civic goals and outcomes for my student?